All right, so hi everybody. This is Stan Jane with ICF Colorado, and I'm here today with Mark Robertson, who will be our speaker for the September 12th chapter meeting. He'll be discussing how to create transformation using ontological coaching. And so Mark Robertson is an executive coach who specializes in working with leaders and business owners who truly care about their impact on their people. He helps them to intentionally create high-functioning, connected teams who are doing wholehearted, meaningful work, and at the same time delivering kick-ass results. Mark's journey to becoming a coach includes a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, a Master's in Education in Human Development Counseling, along with exposure to the ontological distinctions, first in a personal way with Education for a Living, then in a professional manner by attending Newfield Network and serving as a Newfield mentor coach for 9 years. So Mark Robertson, welcome and thanks for speaking with us.
Thanks, Stan. I'm thrilled to be here. Really happy to be talking with you, and thrilled to be presenting in September to ICF Colorado.
That's right. That's right. So it's so interesting seeing your bio, reading your bio, and hearing you talk. I can totally relate to some of your journey because it actually parallels some of mine. I did the Forum by Landmark Education, which is related in some ways to the Education for a Living. And then I also did Newfield Network just a couple of years ago. And I'm really curious to hear, I know you have a passion for these two programs, and I'm curious to hear your journey. Like, how did you become who you are today, and how did you become the coach you are today? And just tell us a little bit about how you got here.
How did I become who I am today? And wow, you're going to need about an hour and a half for that or longer, right? I'm inching up on 59, so that's a long story, but I'll try to keep it brief. So how did I get here? I think where I want to start is just, why did I go to Education for a Living? I was 25 years old. I was working for Anderson Consulting at the time as a management consultant. I laugh about that a little bit, thinking of a 25-year-old as a management consultant to executives, right? I was a glorified IT coder, really is what I was. But the truth is, during that time, I was miserable, quite honestly. You might even say depressed. Ontologically, we might say the mood of resignation. It had me. I didn't have it. I was trapped. And, I had all the trappings at that time. So I was 25 years old. That was 1990, 1991. I had the great job, the car, lived in the right place, dated the right women, all that stuff. And yet I was miserable. I spent many weekends, just hanging out by myself in my apartment. And I knew I needed something else. I knew I needed something different. And lo and behold, what got put in front of me was Education for a Living. And so I went to what they call an intro night and was really kind of blown away, very intrigued, but didn't commit right away. Basically, Education for a Living is a series of experiential, personal, emotional, often workshops for self-growth. And so the first one was a weekend long one. And so I didn't commit right away. I was hesitant, skeptical. The resignation actually probably was in my way. But finally, I actually remember talking to my aunt about the price. And she said, Mark, you'd spend this money on a new suit for your job. Why don't you go? And that was the thing that convinced me. I was like, I'm in. Like, this is for me. And at the risk of sounding like an infomercial, it changed my life. It really blew me away. So that was the first exposure I had to the ontological distinctions, which I'll be sharing some of with you, everyone here at ICF Colorado on September the 12th. It just changed me fundamentally. And I did their core program, which was 3 workshops. And it was like someone had taken the blinders off of me. I was happy for the first time in my life. And I'm not going to go into the reasons why, but as you might imagine, I'm talking to coaches, so they know the impact of your family upbringing, that kind of thing, right? And so I did those programs and literally changed jobs rather quickly. After that, I realized this wasn't what I wanted to be doing career-wise. And so I began a career search, which lasted another 5 to 6 years and did a number of different things, but made the jump. And I was really committed to finding what I was passionate about career-wise in my life. And I finally came to coaching. And that was in actually that's not true. I got my master's in human development counseling at 30. And I realized that was close, but it wasn't it. And then shortly after that, I realized, oh, it's not counseling, it's coaching. I began to, and what made me realize that was I was sitting in a cubicle at a bank one day and asked myself, what's been the most powerful experience you've ever had in your life? And immediately it was like education for living. And that's where you came across a coach on Friday night who said, I'm going to be your coach this weekend. And I went, wait, what? This isn't a sport. What are we doing here? And I was amazed at his ability to read people and work with people and help them work through their stuff. And so that's when I made the declaration to be a coach. And I had done a lot of education for living work. And I felt like, and I recommitted myself to be a coach, and I started apprenticing with Education for Living. My dear friend and mentor, Mike Papania. And shortly after that, I realized I know this stuff well enough to help people. And specifically that became help people and companies, because I remember when I was going through Education for Living workshops, I was noticing many of the challenges and problems that people were having at work, not to mention personally, were people issues of trust, distrust, inability to embrace change or change, lots of stuff like that. And I knew these distinctions could drastically help that. So I launched on my own in early 1998. I was like, I had no business plans. Like, I'm going to become a coach, and off I went with the confidence that I could teach this stuff. Shortly after that, my dear friend Chalmers Brothers asked me to partner with him, and away we went in early 1998. And so we did some really fun work for about 3 years, really doing a lot of trainings, teaching these distinctions to leaders. So the focus was very quickly on leadership development, effective communication and relationship building, change management, anything in that realm. And so we worked together for 3.5 years. And in the midst of that, in 2001, Chalmers had already done Newfield Network. And we reached out to a Newfield colleague that he had to get some help on a client project we were doing. And out of that conversation, I decided I got to go to Newfield. And because I had the personal experiential side, and for me, Newfield was really about getting immersed back into the ontological work, but also really understanding the theoretical underpinnings of the work. Not to mention getting to experience one of the founders, which was Julio Alaya. And so in 2001, I did their program, and then was again blown away, especially by Julio. It was phenomenal. But again, deepening my learning on the ontological distinctions. And so after that, I sort of felt like I had a really powerful combination of embodied experiential learning ontologically, along with the theory and more embodied learning as part of my journey. So I think it makes me a powerful coach. And so I became a Newfield mentor coach in 2003 for 7 or 8 years, more learning. And so, that's really that part of my journey. It doesn't take me all the way to 2024. I'll just say this, the ontological framework is what I call it now, is the solid underpinning of my work. I'm an executive coach, and it is so intimately connected to leadership development. There's just no way around it. So I guess I'll stop there. I know that's a lot, but I'll end the question there.
Thanks. That's a great answer. It's an exciting path that you've been on. So ontological coaching, like what is ontological? Maybe you can answer this in the event, but like what is ontological coaching, and how do you use that in your practice, in your coaching practice?
That's a good question. And there's no one answer to it, Stan. But what I would say, what is ontological coaching? I think we have to kind of then talk about what does ontological mean. And so just quickly, each of us has an ontology, is what that means. Like you and I and everyone else has an ontology. It's our way of being. That's all that means. And so you could then say that it's coaching around someone's way of being, correct? But there are some important pieces here, which I will talk about in my talk on September the 12th. The idea, one of the foundational ideas, is that every one of us has a unique ontology or way of being. I believe there's not another human being on the planet I could find that's like you 100%, who sees, thinks, feels, and acts the same as you. And that's the ontology or way of being that we talk about. It's your pattern ingrained, learned ways over time in which you see the world, think about, feel, and act in the world. It's the you that you bring to every encounter. So hopefully that makes sense. So ontological coaching then operates fundamentally from the premise of, generally when we do coaching, especially around areas where our clients are stuck, they don't know what to do anymore and they're coming to us for help, but it even works for growth potential areas as well. We always start with your way of being, who you be. Like that's where the transformational is kind of the word we like to use. The transformational shift can happen when we're able to shift your way of being through ontological coaching, which is a conversation, interaction, me teaching my clients the distinctions to get them to see their situation differently, all of that. The moment we can produce those shifts, which often we would say are like the aha moments, paradigm shifts, new actions become available to you immediately in that moment. And so we start there with your way of being. By shifting your way of being, by the way, just about any aspect of your way of being can be changed. We don't really believe that anything's fixed. So when we're able to shift that, we open up new possible actions consistently for my clients. I do, and we do as ontological coaches. And so then they go take new actions, they produce results. And so that's ontological coaching. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say this. It is important, we use the word transformation, very sexy word, right? Like, ooh, I'm transformed. That does not discount transactional coaching, if you want to call it that, because I think I do both. We start, and a lot of it's about the transformation of your way of being. And then it's critically important to put that shift in awareness on the ground in terms of action, new practices, so that we can build new embodied habits. So both are very important and legit. So as an ontological coach, I'm working in both areas. Just typically this first, this next, committed to new action and practice, so that my clients can start to get the results that they came to me for.
Oh, it sounds like a huge topic. What are you most passionate about within this topic? And like, what are we going to experience when we're there? Yeah. How are you going to share this information?
So I think what I'm most passionate about today, and I've been thinking about this in this way for the last couple of years, is this framework or template called ontological design or ontological coaching is the most powerful template I've ever seen in my lifetime around how to be an effective human being, how to live effectively, not how to make a living, but I want to be a peaceful man. I'm a worthy man. I'm a confident man. So this framework and template is the most powerful one I've ever seen. And the way I've been speaking about it, honestly, these days is this. This is why I'm so passionate, because I think most of the framework and templates that most people, especially in the American culture, learned from their families growing up, their communities, their school education, their friends, their culture, all of those things shape our way of being. The framework and templates that most Americans have, they're either incomplete, inadequate, or they just flat out don't work in many ways. So what I'm saying is, like, you're doing your best out here to have your best life, if you want to call it that, but you're operating with poor tools or a poor framework on how to see yourself and how to see the rest of the world and others. So I just think this one is so much better. And as I get older, I'm like, I have got to get this out to more people. It's just better. And so that's my answer to what I'm passionate about, is that really getting it out more for as long as I'm here on the planet. And then, what does that mean for what's going to happen on September 12th, right? Is obviously I can't teach you the whole thing, but I'm going to cover the foundational models of ontological coaching, but I'm going to do it in an experiential way, especially at the beginning. I want to take you through an experience to get a sense of what all this way of being means and why it's important. So I'll engage the audience that's there. We'll walk through an experience and then we'll talk about it. And I'm sure since I have a bunch of coaches, my experience with coaches is we love taking that in, and then we love speaking about it and sharing our perspective. So we'll have a rich conversation. I'll introduce the theory, and we can engage around that as we go along. And then, I'll probably put you, in exercises with each other. The first activity will be that, but we'll have, engaged conversation with each other. And then I also suspect I'll do a coaching demo, at least one, maybe two coaching demos, so people can see, oh, this is what that looks and feels like, which I suspect, well, I don't suspect, I'll be curious to know how similar or different that might be to the other coaches' frameworks that are there. So long answer, but hopefully that got it.
Oh, totally. I mean, I'm certainly excited about this conversation. It's really clear you're passionate and you're passionate about this topic, and that you want to share this with the world. I'm glad you're able to share it with us. So thank you so much for sharing today about what you're going to talk about, and also just thank you to everybody out there for listening to this topic and hearing us speak today about it. I just want to let you know that Mark Robertson is going to be actually flying in from his home in Nashville to attend in Denver in person. So those of you who can actually attend in person, we'd love to have you and actually, spend time in person at the Posner Center. If you can't do that, of course, you can do it by Zoom. So again, the event is on September 12th. And the registration, you can register on our website. And we just really hope to see you all there. So thanks again, Mark Robertson, for sharing with us about this ontological coaching technology.
You're welcome, Stan. Let me just say one last thing. I think I appreciate your feedback about how passionate I think it comes through. And it's just because, it has changed my life, as cheesy as that sounds, I am not who I think I would have been had I not come across these distinctions at 25 years old. So I've been playing with these now for 34 years. And so I'm excited to be with your group to share some of that wisdom. So thanks again.